Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Mauricio Pochettino's PSG find themselves 2-1 down heading to the Etihad for the second leg of their Champions League clash. After starting strongly, they faded in the second half, meaning that to go through a normal time, they will likely have to win by 2 clear goals, unless of course it is an extremely high-scoring match. The first leg performance was good overall, but what potential tweaks could Pochettino make to try and guarantee victory? Let's take a look. Personnel-wise, there may not be much change from either side. Perhaps Zinchenko could start for Cancelo, and aside from that, an unchanged 11 is likely for the citizens. PSG could also use the same lineup, apart of course from Idrissa Gueye, who was sent off, so he could be replaced by Danilo or Herrera. And perhaps we could see Kurzawa come in. But what could PSG change on the ball? City generally pressed high up when PSG had the ball deep, but PSG were generally successful at breaking this press, so there may not be much need to change this. When City pressed in a 4-4-2 and looked to cut off PSG's deepest midfielders, we saw both Neymar and Verratti finding space between the lines, and Kimpembe and Marquinhos are both good on-the-ball defenders who could find the line-breaking pass. We also saw them intelligently overload the right-hand side, with Neymar and Mbappe drifting wide. Neymar would then often look to take up the attention of one midfielder, and with Mbappe often between the centre-back and the full-back, João Cancelo would be reluctant to join in the press at times. This would mean Di Maria could move more central in order to receive it himself. And in open play, when City pressed in a lopsided 4-3-3, particularly when the ball was down PSG's left, Foden was drawn more narrow to press a centre-back or a midfielder, and PSG took advantage of this well, with Di Maria coming narrow and drawing Cancelo, which would free up Florenzi for the switch. All of this worked well, so what potential tweaks could help the attack even further? Using a dedicated 4-4-2 could prove prosperous. This could involve Draxler coming into the wing position and Mbappe staying central. Or Icardi could come in up front and Mbappe move to his preferred left wing. This would give PSG an alternative way to beat the press, being able to go more direct to Icardi, as he's much better in the air than Neymar or Mbappe. Although against Stones and Diaz this would still be a tough ask. But Icardi will also give them an extra number in the box. In the first leg, when Florenzi got into good crossing positions from the previously discussed switch, Neymar and Mbappe would look to give him central options in the box. Verratti would join in at times, but of course he doesn't have a forward's natural instinct. Icardi would give them an extra option in the box, as well as being able to get on the end of aerial crosses, rather than just low-driven ones. But in open play, the changed structure could make the difference. One of the reasons Pochettino used a midfield 3 and Neymar moving central is that City tend to dominate the midfield. So by having more numbers there, PSG will be able to keep more of the ball. However, as we saw, City pressed in a 4-4-2, meaning they only had 2 central midfielders at times, and Verratti and Paredes are both excellent on the ball and would back themselves to be able to keep the ball in these 2 versus 2 situations. And having Neymar central would still mean that they do have a numerical advantage in the midfield and can still look to find him between the lines. And if it were to be Draxler starting wide, he's also comfortable drifting more central to create a 4, as the left back would be high anyway. But a 4-2-3-1 with Mbappe left could be the best solution. When Mbappe played up front, he found himself with his back to goal for most of the match, facing the play, and marked by 2 defenders, meaning that he did not see much of the ball. But off the left, we have seen him drift central to combine with Neymar well, and they could be dangerous if found between the lines when City press in a 4-4-2. And the extra forward would better occupy the centre-backs to give Mbappe and Neymar time on the ball between the lines. When Mbappe was the only forward, his presence would only give Neymar space to receive. Lastly, it also means that when Mbappe receives the ball, he'll now be facing the defenders instead of having his back to goal, and can look to make the most of his dribbling ability. But he will also have the option of making the run between the fullback and centre-back to get on the end of the ball. And on the defensive end of things, Poch will need to be aware of a few things. They defended in a rough 4-4-1-1 with Neymar and Mbappe high. A common problem is that in the initial stages of a match, Neymar and Mbappe are quite disciplined. However, as the game progresses, they are slower and slower to track back after attacks. We saw this with both Stones and Diaz having more time on the ball to pick out passes in the second half, which helped City to keep possession. So if they are the front two, they will need to be more aware of this throughout the match. And with Neymar high and Verratti tucked in, we saw City take advantage of the right-hand side, with Bernardo moving out to be an auxiliary right winger. This is why a more dedicated left winger, such as Draxler or a more disciplined Mbappe, would help this by preventing this overload. Of course, the false 9 does mean that they'll be at risk of being overloaded in the midfield. However, this may be a risk that they have to take, and by having a more disciplined front two, they can try to minimize this. And lastly, set pieces will be key. At the Parc des Princes, PSG won several first balls from corners through great delivery and movement, and this could bear fruit for them once again. These are just a few of the areas PSG could look to exploit and have to be wary of. But I want to know how you think the match will pan out. Drop it down in the comments below. And if you want even more content whilst helping to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/footballmadesimple. You'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, as well as access to the upcoming FMS video podcast. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.